today's video is going to be a little different than my usual uploads, and the reason for that is because we're going to be taking a look at two different true stories from the Northwest Rebellion in 1885 here in Canada. And these two stories are a bit more spooky and mysterious, and so I figured what better time of the year than fall coming up to Halloween. So yeah, hope you enjoy. So our first story takes place on May 9th, 1885. The siege of Batoche is just beginning, and the SS Northcote is making its way down the river to attack Batoche, the town of Batoche, from the rear and do a beach landing. Now, as the ship's sailing down the river, they take very heavy fire. Wood splinters are flying all over the place into soldiers' eyes and such. And it's a very terrible place to be at the moment. But a few of the soldiers noticed something across the river on the opposite bank of the river. And I'm just going to read a little bit from this book, Prairie Warships, about what they saw on the riverbanks. A horrifying spectacle met our gaze on the opposite bank. A man, presumably one of Riel's prisoners, was dangling by the neck from a branch of an almost limbless tree, a victim of rebel rage and vindictiveness. So, what they saw was a man hanging from a tree on the riverbank. And so they assumed he was probably one of the civilian hostages the rebels took early in the war. And so a few days pass, and the ship's coming back to Batoche. Their attack failed, and they continued sailing downstream. So they're coming back now. And so they start asking around about who this man was they saw hanging from a tree. So they asked the local priests, and they know nothing about it. And so they go down to the riverbank to check themselves and to bury the man, give him his sort of just kind of respect the body and just bury it. And they go down there and they look for the body and they can't find anything. They look all over the place and there's nothing to be seen. So a couple things could have happened. One, he could have been the victim of rebel rage, as I said, and a civilian could have been executed. Or he could have been one of the rebels who realized they were going to win this battle and might have committed suicide himself. And the rebels could have cut him down from the tree and might have buried him elsewhere. Or for both of those, he could have been the rope could have snapped and he could have fallen into the river and gotten washed downstream. Or the soldiers might have not seen anything at all. They might have just saw a weird-looking branch or leaves or something that looked sort of like a human body, and there might have not been anything at all. And to this day, no one knows who that was or what it was or what. So it's still a mystery to this day. Now this next story takes place in a native village, to be specific, the Cree tribe. And they just looted and massacred a village. And so they're hanging out in this area, and it's around early April. And so they're hanging out in this area with all this extra food supplies which they gathered from the village. And they're having a good time. But all this changed when an old woman named She Winds declared that she was going to become a Wendigo. Now, what a Wendigo is, the natives believe a Wendigo is a person who becomes a cannibal, who later turns into a sort of creature. And this creature is incredibly hard to kill, and they're able to massacre entire villages, and the reason for that is because they let out this loud scream, and anyone in the area who hears this scream becomes paralyzed, letting the Wendigo come and eat an entire village, even though it might take several weeks to consume everyone. And so the village, hearing that this woman is going to become a Wendigo, decide they need to take action. So no one really wanted to be picked for the job, but the tribe decided to pick 3 different men to deal with the problem. And to dispose of a Wendigo properly, they saw fit was they would instead of just killing the Wendigo, you would have to burn the body, because if you chop the head off from the body or the limbs or anything, the Wendigo can regrow its limbs back to its body, they believed. And so to kill one, you had to destroy the body completely. So these three men took this elderly woman out of the village, and she was a bit of a crazy old woman, and so she was just kind of a little loony. And so they took her out of the village, and they got her on the ground. They placed a veil over her face, and the one native out of the three, he was aimed with a club, the other had a rifle, and the last one, he had a sword. And so the first native stepped up with his club. He hit her in the head. She fell to the ground, and she was still conscious. The other native opened up with his rifle on her, fired 3 rounds into her. And the last native, he drew his sword, and he cut her head off. So he picks up her head by the braids, and he goes to chuck it into the woods because, well, they don't want it reattaching to the body. So he goes and throws it into the woods, but the braids on the head get caught in a willow tree, and the head swings back around, looking them right in the face. And so this really spooks them out, and so they just book it the other direction and get out of there as fast as they can. Later, though, they realize that they need to properly dispose of the body, so they go back there, and they burn the body to nothing but ashes. These 3 men who committed this crime would later be executed by the Northwest Mounted Police because, well, technically it's murder. And yeah, that's the end of that story. So if you enjoy stories like these and want to see more history-related videos, please feel free to subscribe to the channel and like the video. And thanks for watching, and have a great Halloween.